this spotless bolt. What did you guys think of that new intro? I think it was alright, but some feedback would be great. So today we're going to deal with the lack of muffler on this car. You can probably tell it's a little bit holy. It certainly had better days. The back half of it's rusted through and the front half of it is rusted through. So I'm going to take some measurements and see if I can get something that's closely comparable to what was. I kind of feel like I'm going to have to deal with the whole system as a whole. Well, there aren't many rubber isolators on this either. There's no isolator here. That's a solid mount. There's an isolator here where the exhaust is hung from before the tailpipe crosses over the rear axle. Looks like I got a bit of a drip too from the rear diff. I should check the fluid in there. What else do we have? So this will be a slip joint, or would have been once upon a time with the clamp. And then there's nothing holding the exhaust here. I mean, my e-brake cable seems to be doing a decent enough job. And then we get up to where the automatic transmission is, and there's a bracket that's basically holding the cat up to the car. I'd like to leave that portion alone if possible. I know this midsection of the exhaust is not correct to the car. It's been replaced with something kind of goofy because there's supposed to be a bit of a clearance path for the sake of the e-brake cable. So this has been messed with once upon a time, but that's all right. Looks like there's some part numbers here. I'm going to try to take those down and see if we can't find a suitable replacement. There we go. I just was under there looking around and I noticed a drip up at the front, a very significant one, and it's actually at the joint for the fuel pump. So I may have a bad seal there, which might just be a matter of tightening up a hose clamp, but I'm definitely going to address that. I have noticed a smell of gas on occasion, so that's hopefully the source of it now. That's kind of a silly mistake, but it being an active drip like that, it's certainly dangerous. Alright, so now we're idling in the red car. It's a couple hours since I crawled underneath and was checking out the muffler situation and then discovered that fuel leak. So I fixed the fuel leak. I was covered in gas. I apologize, I couldn't really record anything. I don't know how this problem came about, but the fuel line that went from the pre-filter to the pump on the engine block, somehow the gear clamp that was on there had worked itself loose, or perhaps it was never tightened when I put it back on 2 years ago. I noticed in the last few months that there was a bit of a smell of fuel. I thought, oh, maybe that's, I don't know, I thought maybe the evap line, part of it had rusted through, because I think I changed most of the evap line, but there were still a few parts that I left original. So I didn't really think much of it. And then when I saw that dripping, that active drip, I realized what it was. So I put a couple of different gear clamps on there and was able to make them tight. I'm wondering if maybe the original one stripped a thread and popped itself loose. I can't really speak to it, but it's not leaking now. So that should actually improve the fuel economy on the car, and I'm thinking the drivability might get a little bit better, because if it's drawing air into the fuel system when you're drawing air where it's supposed to draw fuel, of course that's going to interrupt the flow in the engine there, and thinking maybe I'll have a bit better acceleration, or not that it was horrible before. I mean, it's still a Chevette, so what are you going to do? Unrelated and off topic, the CB that I put in here over the Christmas break, I think if you saw that video, you'll know it's mounted up under the dash with a little homemade bracket. I'm just trying a little experiment because this CB also has a PA feature on it. So basically, I can put a speaker outside the car and use the microphone to speak through the speaker. Or I guess I could play any audio from in the car outside. A lot of things can be done. So I wanted to give that a try because I think at one of the Chevette meets, that would be quite a fun little toy to have. Not to get into any trouble or anything with, but I think it's certainly going to be something that I'm going to investigate a little bit further and see if I can't make a permanent installation of a speaker under the hood. Maybe even go through an amplifier just to get a little bit more volume. That was pretty loud to start out with, but if I had a couple of speakers that were a little better quality, suitable for outdoors, I got some marine speakers in mind, that might be a little fun project to just fart around with. But anyway, I now have some information on what the muffler on this car is currently, and I can try to source a replacement, but the rest of the exhaust piping is kind of crunchy. So I might be looking at a little bit more work than what I originally anticipated. But with that in mind, I have to wait a little bit just for the weather to turn, because I think I'm going to have to set up those big ramps of mine in order to be able to work under the car safely, have it elevated enough where I could replace the exhaust. And then I have to consider the possibility, like I already have the other exhaust system from the 2-door 4-speed car in the barn, and that came off complete. It's got a cat and it's got a muffler, if I remember correctly, and I don't think it was rotten, and that would be just a straight bolt-on, and then I would have to just deal with exhaust on that car later. Might be the way I go. Not 100% sure. I haven't really decided yet. I'm going to have to do a little bit more digging, I think, first to kind of see where I'm at. But there is a Chevette meet coming up in July. That one's stateside, and I would love to be able to attend, but that muffler is certainly something I think I should address very soon. First off, for the carbon monoxide coming off of that under the car, but then also for the road noise, because it was really irritating driving the car on the highway, and very loud. I actually have earplugs in the glove box from that trip still, like bought a pack of them basically. Anyways, I will follow up with the muffler situation, but I appreciate everybody watching for now. I know this is a shorter video just on the Pontiac stuff, but I definitely appreciate when you check it out, and I love to see the comments that you leave, good or bad. It's all the same to me. I appreciate starting a bit of a conversation there. And certainly feel free to subscribe to the channel to see all this kind of stuff just about all the time. I'm always working on some sort of a project, and more times than not I've got the camera along with me to sort of show what I'm up to. But we'll see you guys on the next round, and cheers.
One night only at the Palace Hotel Ballroom. The Blues Brothers Rhythm and Blues Review. It's ladies' night at the Palace Hotel Ballroom.